Greg, let's get into before we just talk about this. And if you're watching, thank you. Like, comment, subscribe to the channel. We're doing a lot of different cool things here and just sort of building it out before really hitting it hard in the fall. And leave comments because we will get to those. We already have a couple, but we will get to more as the show progresses. Let's get into Jimmy Butler and some of the things he had to say. Hat tip to Brady Hawk because we are going to use some of the stuff that Brady Hawk posted in regards to this. Okay, so we have Jimmy Butler here in a media scrum. Let's play a little bit what he had to say as it relates to him being the bad guy, quote unquote, which, I mean,
okay, we'll get to that. Let's hear the quote first.
All right, Greg, your first response to this is what? This is from Jimmy Butler. This is from Brady Hawk earlier today. He's not mad at sort of being painted as the bad guy. He's been the bad guy wherever he's gone. And he has been painted as that. But I mean, your reaction to this is what? Do you feel like it's disingenuous?
I mean, to a degree, because I feel like the common thread with every place that he's been is that it's ended badly. And I think that like there has to be some level of personal accountability there. Like we can't just be tone deaf to the fact that every time Jimmy Butler gets, in a place where you think that he could thrive, it ends up colliding and going in a different direction. Miami seemed like the perfect fit where he'd end his career. And the fact that that didn't make itself, that didn't manifest. It's just a weird situation where Jimmy Butler, I don't know how he couldn't say that, that he's had a lot to do with with why he's kind of crashed and burned everywhere he's been. This is the honeymoon phase in Golden State, so they're going to enjoy that. But he has been the bad guy and he's done some bad guy things, but not bad stuff that makes him a bad human being. Like this is all in the context of basketball and being a teammate and making it easy to be a professional and stuff like that. But there's no doubt that he has not ended well anywhere he's been.
That's really what it comes down to. Yeah, Ronster says he can't hear it. He can't hear the audio either. It's weird. I could hear it. I don't know why y'all can't hear it. But I hear it perfectly fine in my headphones. But if not, then we could just we could just talk about it. It's fine. Because the quotes are here. Because Brady is professional. The thing is, he has been painted as that, quote unquote. But all of the breakups, not the Bulls one exactly. I feel like that one sort of aged well if you look at where the Bulls have been since he's left. But with Minnesota, he clearly wanted his money. And this story's been told, I don't know how many times over, by Jeff Teague, especially, most famously. And he is to blame for a lot of that. But also you could sort of see, like, at the time, at least, why he was justified in at least wanting his money. It always comes down to Jimmy has a point, but the way he goes about making the point is a little much.
Yeah.
Like, do you have to embarrass everybody on the Timberwolves? Do you have to make everyone on the Sixers look stupid, except for Joel Embiid? Do you have to make everyone on the Heat, like, sort of alienate, everybody in the process of forcing your way out the door? And ultimately, he gets what he wants, which is the money, but this is how he gets painted as the bad guy. It's like it's two things, because I think he's right at every turn in terms of wanting the money. He's right at every turn. Every team he joins gets better, and every team he
as
leaves
a
gets
human being,
worse.
he
Like
should
that's
maximize his earning potential while he's in the league, no doubt.
yes. But the way he goes about it, it's like it's a little over the top. But in his defense, like the way the league is, and this is why some people wanted Damian Lillard to make it messy. That's kind of how you get your way in the NBA.
Yeah,
It's like
he won ultimately. He got his money. He's in a
and
better
Dame
position.
didn't get to where he wanted to go. He wanted to be the nice guy. He was like, "Yo, I'm willing to work with the organization," and Cronin wasn't trying to hear that. But now, in terms of going to Miami, leaving Miami, like he goes about it this way, but he ultimately gets what he wants, even if Phoenix was the first option.
Yeah, I think he's in a perfect situation where he can age gracefully with Steph. They're in the same timeline. He got paid. This is all, and I see in the chat Ronster mentions that Philly and the Bulls definitely weren't. He wasn't the bad guy. Philadelphia was less about him being the bad guy, but he just wasn't the guy that they chose. They thought that other guys would be better fits, and they spent their money elsewhere. But to the point overall, I think it's interesting to watch now this dynamic between the Heat and Jimmy. They're both kind of downplaying this game. And I think in subsequent quotes, we'll see that even more. And I think it's funny to see the two of them navigate this situation ahead of the game because they're acting like they're not in their feelings, but everybody's still in their feelings.
So this one, actually, let's go to Ronster's comment first. Philly and Bulls definitely wasn't the bad guy. I agree. I don't think he was in Minnesota either from the standpoint of what he wanted. I just think the way he went about it wasn't awesome. And then in Miami, I think that's the one that's a little bit more tilted towards at least being split. Like I blame both sides for how they handled the Miami one more
Mm-hmm.
so than the other ones where I'm like, Chicago hasn't been good since, like
Yeah.
legitimately good since. Minnesota, they wouldn't have been if they didn't luck into Anthony Edwards. And then Philadelphia, like they got
They're
further with
inept.
they still haven't gotten past the second round, and if you look at just all those gripes, I get it. And the people they extended instead, Wiggins got his money, Towns got his money, for example. With the Bulls, they weren't paying like anybody. But Minnesota, Wiggins got his money, Towns got his money. And then if you look at Philly, it was Tobias Harris, it was Ben Simmons. And yeah, if I'm Jimmy Butler, I'm looking at that crazy. In Miami, Bam got his money. And I think it's more so like if Bam gets his money, he didn't go at Bam publicly, at least. Privately, we'll find out. But publicly, he didn't go at Bam the way he went at some of the guys on the Sixers, the way he went at some of the guys on the Timberwolves. And I think if he got his extension when Bam did, then whatever. Like all of this would have been avoided, but the Heat didn't do that. This next part, we'll just read it because it's an 8-second clip. It's not worth playing. But Jimmy Butler on whether or not he'd watch the Heat tribute video. Would I watch? Yeah, I'd watch if they have one. If they don't, makes no difference. if
See,
you've heard
this is
him talk,
like what I mean
if you've
about
heard him
them.
talk, Greg, which we all have, you know how he delivered this.
Yeah. And they can act nonchalant on in both directions. There was a day that they didn't out of today that they didn't feel great about some of not getting it done and that kind of stuff perspective, because if you look at all his other stops, he didn't get much done that was anything better than what happened in Miami. But this is like, if they're going to play it, yeah, I'll watch it, but it doesn't matter if it happens. Like, to me, this is very much everybody's just kind of playing defense against one another. They're protecting their egos and they have their positions. Um, Jimmy won in this situation. The Heater are in the opposite direction as Golden State at this point in time. I don't know that that's going to be forever, but right at this moment, they're completely different trajectories. So Jimmy got what he wants. He got paid. What's he going to say? He's not going to say, "Oh yeah, it would mean a lot to me," something like that. So I try not to read too much into this. He's the ultimate contrarian.
Okay, now this last one. I asked Jimmy Butler about any matchups. This is from Brady. I asked Jimmy Butler about any matchups he looks forward to tomorrow in Miami. He says, I know those guys. Those guys know me. It's a team game. Like, he's still trying to downplay. Still trying to downplay, honestly, the shit we want to hear. Like, I want to see what happens when we get that first switch and Bam gets Jimmy on the switch and Bam has
I
to start him. Like, obviously, they're not going to lend voice to that. Tyler Hero didn't either, which we're going to look at in a second. But that's gonna be that's interesting to me. Like, Greg, one, have you thought about this? You probably have. Have you thought about this? And to what degree do you think this is bullshit? This is not bullshit.
I think he will hunt for Haywood Highsmith and try to draw fouls against him. I think that that'll be fun. And I mentioned in Discord off the floor, I'll plug that right here. I mentioned in there that it'll be fun the first time Jimmy doesn't want to get switched up on Bam. I think they'll competitively go at each other because some of what Jimmy said today, Jimmy was asked, had Pat sat down with you and given you the extension, would this have all gone away? And he basically said no. Now, I don't know if I believe that. But if
Yeah.
we are to take Jimmy Butler at face value, that it was not going to be good, even if they sat down and offered him that extension last May. What I think this boils down to is Jimmy Butler wanted big changes, and he probably wanted Bam Adebayo to be part of those changes. And so there's something there that I think if we're going to take Jimmy at his word, I think he probably wanted Tyler moved. The Dame deal not happening, I think, is a big deal for this entire thing and the way that it played out. But like when we talk about the Kevin Durant's of the world, I bet Jimmy Butler would have preferred Kevin Durant over Bam Adebayo, and the Heat org wasn't going in that direction, because the only other thing would be that they didn't offer the extension, and they didn't offer it to him, but he says that he didn't want to be there anyway. Why else?
Tyler Hero, I'm playing against Jimmy Butler Tuesday. It'll be fun. This is the quote. It'll be fun. It's another game for us, honestly. We just came off a 10-game losing streak. We've got bigger things to worry about. Obviously, Jimmy's coming back here, but it's a regular game. This entire thing is bullshit, right? Like,
I mean, it
is a regular game in terms of the standings, Greg, but come on.
Yeah,
come on.
No, that there's validity to both teams have their own shit to get together, and Golden State is in one direction and Miami is in another. They're just trying to like plug holes in the boat that's sinking. But this game's gonna mean more once they're on the court, and like Jimmy Butler's out there. I've heard that the tribute video could come during the introductions, and that will be interesting to get the crowd hyped up. It probably will play on TNT. So this could just get interesting that way. And I think there'll be more emotion than usual, and they're not acknowledging that. There'll be a little bit of like, I think the Heat want to show that they can compete without Jimmy, and Jimmy's obviously going to do what he does, especially if Steph plays. So it'll be fun.
Yes.
I'm not going to pretend like the Heat are going in any direction like Golden State this year. So it'll be interesting to see if the Heat can be competitive and win that game. They'll definitely be underdogs, but this may be the last game of the season where Heat fans really, really plug in, because it looks like otherwise it's like you kind of wait till the play in, because they're not falling any further in the standings.